back. It's been a while since our last video, but there were a couple of exciting things that have been happening in the background, which leads me to today. This past weekend, I had the wonderful opportunity to go to the North American Saxophone Alliance's conference out in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And while I was there, I got to do a couple presentations as well as help with some really exciting authentication projects for some different saxophones. But one of my presentations was called Reapproaching the Creston. And it's a historical, recreation of the Creston Sonata with the Conn 6M, with this one exactly, actually. It was where a talented performance colleague of mine borrowed this instrument and performed the Creston, and we talked about what's different about it, what's unique about it, as we explored the concepts and the design elements of the Conn 6M that make such a performance unique. And like we've discussed in other videos with this instrument, the Conn 6M was the one that really set a new bar and a baseline for saxophone design in the 30s with the articulated, left pinky cluster, the alternate G sharp, the micro tuner, all of these different things that add up to, this really legendary saxophone in a way. But it was a way to play the piece and hear it on a context of a saxophone that's very close to the original. When Cecil Leeson had the opportunity to play the Creston on the 6M, he didn't necessarily like it as much as his own personal saxophone. He played Martins for the majority of his career. But it shows that the instrument is a viable part of the saxophone's history, just as the music is such a crucially important part of saxophone literature and its history. We'll play a little bit, and I'll reference the Creston in some of my improvisations, and I think that'll be the basis of our discussion. The first line of the Creston Sonata features this figure, which in its first measure talks about the biggest questions in saxophone pedagogy. What do we do with our left pinky? What do we do about G sharp if we have an alternate? It is that wonderful posing question. Leeson's saxophone had the alternate G sharp, had an articulated spatula table. So what might he have chose? What were his options when he played? These questions can be answered through you as a player working on a saxophone like this, as you then decide what's more comfortable in your playing. Do you like to use your right hand with the alternate G sharp? Do you like to use a different note on the table that's more comfortable to your hand positions in its natural flow? I love bringing this up, and that's why we called this presentation Reapproaching the Creston, because it allows you to truly see it in new ways and discover new possibilities for yourself when you're playing. The alternate G sharp with its enharmonic is an A flat. We discussed this a little bit more in a previous video about the key itself and how it functions and the history and how it got to be there. But when you think about classical music on the saxophone, or by definition, legit or standard or non-contemporary literature for the saxophone, its historical contexts come to life through the instruments and the equipment from that time. This is a saxophone from 1938. This is a mouthpiece from the early 40s. So the piece that's commissioned around that same time, this is the highest standard of physical equipment that was available as well. So you would be playing something new with the top of the line, you know, setups that could exist. And for a time, even Leeson played on a metal Auto-Link mouthpiece as part of his sound. So it's definitely something that was part of standard practice at the time, to have a setup like this for a piece like the Creston. And it just goes to show that even though the equipment and practice ideas or pedagogies have evolved in different directions, you can still stem back to their sources and find pieces of that information that are important to you and that help you develop what you're looking for in your sound as well. In this presentation, the colleague of mine who borrowed this horn and performed the piece traditionally has used modern instruments. So our conversation was about what was different physically in the performance. And one of the greatest remarks is that because it's so different, you relearn things about the way that you play, the way that you might have played, not realizing that you played a certain way, and how that can be a good thing. It makes you either appreciate your own instrument more or help you understand what it is that you're looking for in an instrument. And it just goes to show that there is more to be said about these vintage saxophones, and there's more to be researched and taught about how to play them and why to play them. And you know, if there's any questions about the Creston or this information, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to share as much of this as possible, but I want to just kind of reshift the conversation towards this idea of bringing these instruments to life through either historical practice or modern practice as we build it in this postmodern ideology of the saxophone and you and the created connection between. So I'll see you guys again very, very soon. And thank you for watching this video. As always, please like, share, subscribe. It really helps grow things in a beautifully organic way. And to those who I met at this conference, it was incredible to talk with you. And I will see you so very, very soon. And a couple good shout outs to go with this last piece. I'll play out as always, and until next time.